morning. Dignitaries, Dr. J. Chowdhury Garu, MD, CEOs, CXOs, ladies and gentlemen in this gathering. It's an honor and a privilege to speak about disruption to innovation. And it's a topic, it's a hot topic that is doing the circles and rounds globally as well. I would like to start my presentation with a quote. So the quote is, change is inevitable. The disruption it causes often brings inconvenience and opportunity. This is a quote from Robert Scoble. Our thinking drives our focus and action. So if we think inconvenience, our focus and action move towards inconvenience. And if you think about opportunity, our focus and action moves towards opportunity. So if you're thinking disruption is an opportunity for us, and that's something that we would definitely like to work on. So I see a connection between, connection and a similarity between disruption and innovation, where disruption is an action, whereas innovation is a process. Disruption changes the traditional way an industry or a market operates using new methods or technology, whereas innovation brings in about a change using new ideas, methods, solutions to make a positive impact and deliver extensive value. Organizations adopt various strategies of innovation to grow as well as attain leadership globally. So disruption is a term coined by the Harvard Business School professor Clayton Christensen, and the purpose of disruptive innovation is to challenge and disrupt established businesses. The purpose of sustainable innovation is to sustain higher profits. And that's primarily like what we are talking about. And generally, the model that Clayton Christensen created is to leverage technology to advance and sustain existing markets, or leverage technology to adopt and disrupt markets innovating on a continuous or a discontinuous basis, or look at evolutionary versus revolutionary, incremental or radical innovation, or we are talking about breakthrough innovation or a game-changing way. So that's primarily what his model is about. And today, if you look at, most of the startups wants to do disrupt. They want to disrupt existing businesses through disruptive innovation. And that's exactly why you have so many unicorns that are born every other day and globally too. And India is possibly third in the list of startup capital, or whatever it is, the maximum number of startups that are happening across the world. And that's exactly what this hub is all about. Now, organizations which adopt a disruption innovative model leverage what we call as using three components of it. So enabling technology is one of the major components. The second component is an innovative business model, and the third one is a coherent value network. Organizations can use a combination of these, or they can use all the three as well. And if you look at some of these organizations which have done major disruptive innovation, like the Airbnbs of the world, or maybe the Amazons of the world, or maybe if you look at the Ubers of the world, or whatever it is, they've used maybe all the three as well. And the types of disruption that they have done are primarily in two categories. Either the disruption is low-end disruption, or it is a new market disruption. So typical startups fall into the first category, which is primarily a low-end disruption because they're always short of resources. With limited resources, they want to disrupt large businesses. So that's typically how startups move into a curve of scale up and then like become sustainable companies and become unicorns or whatever it is, right? That's primarily what the curve is. Now, if you look at some of the stats that you see, so if you look at some of the stats that are, so is there a back for me? Sorry. Yeah, so this is primarily a report that I wanted to show you from McKinsey. Sorry about the slide transitions. So this is primarily a research and insights from the McKinsey's Global Institute, which is primarily talking about a set of sectors which are making a huge AI impact, both in terms of total impact, in terms of percentage impact, as well as a dollar impact in terms of numbers. And if you look at retail, travel and transportation and logistics, CPG, healthcare, BFSI are sectors which are making a lot more higher impact as compared to some of the other industry sectors. Now, if you look at our own report from NASSCOM, our own report from NASSCOM talks about, our own report from NASSCOM, which is primarily a report which was published recently on AI Adoption Index. It highlights primarily a lot of interventions in terms of functions by sectors, and the 4 sectors which have adopted AI the highest, and they are the leading sectors, are primarily BFSI, industrial and automotive areas, retail and CPG and healthcare as sectors which have taken a lot of investments and they've done a lot of interventions across the adoption of AI in India. Now, if you look at the same report, which is from NASSCOM, it has published an automation index, AI adoption index, and it rates the entire country at 2.45 on a scale of 4, which is extremely high if you look at. And there are close to about 35% of companies who are at an expert level in terms of adoption and maturity, and 3% are already evangelists, which is a very high number if you compare globally. If you also look at a report that has been published by PwC, which is primarily an AI analysis, sizing and pricing the AI market globally, if you look at by 2030, there's going to be a huge GDP impact across countries. And this is something which PwC has stated by saying it's going to be a huge impact using AI and automation by the world. Some other interesting insights that you can look at in terms of reports that are published from various organizations, starting from market size to productivity to job creation, because I'm not talking about job displacement here, I'm talking about job creation, and the global economic impact in terms of adoption, including some of the senior leaders thinking of generative AI. So that's something that we get to see. And the sectors which are actually taking the lead are the core sectors in our industry as well. And what does it mean to talent the moment we talk about increased adoption of AI and a high maturity of AI adoption index across the country, across all the sectors that are contributing to the economy of a country? The increased adoption of AI and the kind of demand-supply gap, the AI talent, it is going to further widen. And currently, if you look at, India is ranked number 2 across the Americas, Europe, and the APAC, and we are ranked number 1 in terms of AI talent, in terms of availability, which is something which is extremely a proud moment for our country, and I think we should all be proud by saying, yeah, India has been producing AI talent, and we are in the forefront of innovation globally too. Now, if you look at the kind of gap that exists today, and it is going to widen further, because if you look at the kind of gap that exists, US, the gap is the highest today, because a lot of technology companies based in AI are in the US, and they are primarily in the forefront of innovation, followed by China and maybe in India, right? And if you look at the kind of gap that exists, and over the last decade or so, and maybe in the last 3 years, you see a lot of American companies and technology companies globally moving their global capability centers, or GCCs, to India, right? So the gap that you see in the US will become a wider gap for India, because those GCCs are going to get located in India, right? And our challenge in terms of producing talent and AI talent to possibly fulfill our own needs, plus the needs of some of the global companies which are going to be based in India, the GCCs, or global capability centers, will definitely innovate on AI and automation. And how do we bridge this particular gap? Currently, like, if you look at, there are institutions which are producing what we call as the STEM talent, and we definitely need to accelerate this, in addition to a set of things that the governments are creating policy frameworks specifically in alignment with the kind of trying to address the demand and the supply kind of gap. And I would like to talk about one such initiative taken by the government of Telangana. And I would definitely like to applaud and acknowledge the kind of effort which is taken by this visionary government by creating an ecosystem, right? Creating an ecosystem of support for innovation. And I would definitely like to thank our partners, and we are very proud to partner with T-Hub and Task for ITTL 2023. And I have never seen a state having an AI mission, and Telangana has an AI mission. And I have never come across this, which is primarily in the forefront of innovation, and government leading this initiative is something which is extremely heartening. And I would possibly urge most of the state governments possibly to look at what Telangana government is doing, and possibly like make an impact in their own cities and states as well. What is it that we are doing? We are doing our bit with My Anatomy, and we have an ethical and a responsible AI. It's an AI-driven tech platform helping the industry and the institutions in discovering the anatomy of AI talent through our recruitment as service as a platform, and developing an AI and an automation talent or an analytics talent through learning as service. This is something that we are making as a contribution in terms of looking ahead to produce AI talent so that India could become potentially the AI capital of the world. I would like to conclude with a quote. I think it also like got reinforced in the earlier speaker. I would like to talk about the Darwin's quote, which is also something which is a coincidence. And I had already planned it in my presentation, but it came in prior to my speech. So it primarily says the strongest of the species survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change is the one which is going to make a difference, significant difference to all of us as well. So I would like to say, let's adopt Darwinism to survive, sustain, thrive in the disruption era, and it's a significant opportunity for all of us. And we have put together the government, industry, institutions, the startup ecosystem, and the skilling companies together on one single platform so that we could create an agenda for future so that India becomes a destination and an AI capital for the world, right? Thank you very much, and that is something that I had to share.